enjoying my time off. I'm actually awake this time, so no long days of travel.
So you're rested up, you're good to go, and all that stuff.
Yeah, I kind of wish I was still on vacation, but they're always too short.
So I caught your video on Linux Gamer, man. That was pretty sweet right there. I was surprised to see that, and I knew you'd mentioned something about Linux Gamer, but I didn't realize you guys were going to do an actual sit down.
Yeah, we he's from where I used to live up in further portion of the state, but basically I went up there for part of that was for that reason. When I found out he was up there, I was like, I cannot not take that opportunity because face-to-face meetings or like for internet stuff is just like so rare. So it's just like I jumped all over that, and he was gracious enough to be on the. For those that don't know, that I'm one of the co-hosts or hosts of the Gaming on Linux podcast. So we did a cross promotional stuff with him. So that was cool to do.
So where if people want to see that video, where is that? That's on the Linux Gamer.
That'll be on the Linux Gamers channel. If you want to hear the podcast, the audio portion of the podcast that he was on, we talked about Steam machines, are they PCs or consoles, which in the Linux community is always a great debate. You can catch that on the gamingonlinux.com, and there's an RSS feed. Yes, there's OGG for those that want the royalty-free stuff. There's MP3s. You can stream it on the site, or you can RSS feed it. So
cool. Well, so we've got another review here, and this is this one. And I don't have my camera. I've got to replace this camera. It decides right in the middle of the conversation to just blur out on me. Anyway, it probably looks much better blurry anyhow. So maybe I should just turn it out of focus. So we've got a more, I guess, would you call it a more update OS to review here? Is that a fair statement?
I would say this is a fair statement. Our first two attempts at reviewing distros have been lackluster as far as this is everything I think GMAC should be.
Very good.
That is like the out and out. If you want Mac, this is about the best way you're going to get it. Yep.
Now this is Perl OS4 for them, version 4. Is this based off of Ubuntu 16.04? Isn't that correct?
Yeah, this is based off 16.04.
Okay.
So it's fairly up to date. I think the last commit that I saw on SourceForge was September? So middle of September. They do provide 32 and 64-bit binaries, ISOs for those that want to know. So, which gets me into an interesting portion. I don't know about you. I tried installing this on my old HP Mini 2140 netbook. So I downloaded the 32-bit, i386 version. For the life of me, I could not get wireless to work at all. None.
Well, this is one where I didn't have any issue, but you know what? You beat me to the punch on the install. So you made mention that you were going to have to install it on something else. I made a quick decision based off of your trial and went ahead and put it on my hybrid Dell system, and it's run. Everything on it is it's all there. So sound is working, Wi-Fi, everything. I got it loaded up right here on this for those of you who may want to see it. We'll have by the way, we're going to have a video rolling here in just a few minutes here. This is the hybrid system. We'll have a video running here in the background, actually going through the OS so that you can see what it's all about. So sorry to interrupt you there, Matt, but
nope, not a problem.
Got one more thing. This was a recommendation from a Linux Quest viewer. Gosh, I'm not going to remember the numbers, but Tam, you know who you are. I just don't remember the numbers following that. Whoops. Following that, but thank you for the recommendation. So what's your take? What's your overall take as far as speed and that kind of thing?
Speed was good. UI is responsive. Even on a old Atom-based netbook, the response was very good as far as the UI and that stuff. Some of the UI elements, I always get concerned when it comes to theming on most Linux distros because it's like a half-hearted attempt at doing stuff. It's kind of, I hate to keep banging on GMAC, but kind of like GMAC, where it's just like some of it's there, some of it's not, some of it's there, some of it's not, or like Blancon, where there was like some elements were really close to what I really wanted, but it didn't have it. This is more. I wouldn't call it completely Mac oriented though. It has the Docky as the dock application. So it is not completely traditional. You can change the dock to however you want. Personally, for me, when I right clicked and I saw that it was Docky, I was like, "Ooh, panel mode," and it gives you that Windows or Unity launcher on the bottom kind of vibe for it. So I felt that was kind of cool. They leave enough customization in there where, like, they actually have a Perl desktop tweak tool for the desktop, which was like amazing. One of the things that I really liked was they had Conky pre-installed, but they had the GUI for it already with a bunch of packages and all that stuff. So it was just click, click, click. There was no oddball configurations and file setups like you normally would have to do with Conky. So I thought that was kind of cool. But my experience with this was actually really good, and I was really glad that this got recommended to me. I don't know if I'm going to keep it as a daily driver on the system I use it on, just because that system is like my test system anyway. So it's the one that I was testing KDE Manjaro, was 1608 or whatever version. So that completely just got blown off, and but this is how I like seeing Linux distros. If they're going to go custom and have a overall theme in mind, this is what I liked. Everything that I looked at, the choice of SeaMonkey was a little weird, because it's like it's SeaMonkey based. How did they word it? SeaMonkey Firefox build. It was like some really weird wording to it.
Yes, and I'm looking at it right now. It's just listing SeaMonkey, but yeah, I do recall that.
That at least that was in the dock anyway. The cool thing with this is all the stuff that it doesn't just sit in the dock. You also have the more traditional GNOME 2 type top panel where you have broken down categories of applications and all that stuff, which for traditionalists they will love.
Absolutely.
And the other thing that I really liked was the implementation of the multiple desktops and how that is done. Because I don't know if you noticed, but they had a way to activate it via hot corner.
I didn't pick up on that.
Bottom left. If you drag your mouse to the bottom left, it should bring up, I think it's 8 virtual desktops, which I thought was a little weird.
Oh, here it is. I got it. Yep.
I thought the 8 they do 8 virtual desktops, but they like the animation that they use. You know how some will do like the expose view or the desktop cube or whatever. This is like a UI thing to me, so I might not be understanding why they chose it. You get the desktop cube, but you have 8 desktops.
Yeah, that's a weird cube, isn't it?
Well, it just goes through that one layer, though.
Oh, okay.
So it'll go through the top or through the bottom, but I just find that weird. That, like, for me, that's a weird UI choice, I guess.
Well, I didn't pick up on the hotspot or the active corner there, but I'm doing it right now as you and I are talking about this. And let me just kind of tab through here. Anyway, I don't want to drag on about that, but I was happy to see. Now let me get back. I was happy to see, like you said, I thought the theming and everything was done very well, much better than GMAC as far as getting deeper integration as far as the theme is concerned. You didn't feel like halfway through you were in some other OS. It felt like no, I'm still within the the whole as it was designed themed UI here. I appreciated, as you said, the drop down menu, the simple drop down menu, because I'm just not personally used to doing everything in the dock or the plank there at the bottom. And as far as speed, and I've got this again on a hybrid system with I think it's a Core i3 with 4 gigs of RAM, and it's pretty peppy.
Speed was great, and I'm running this on an older ProBook, so this is still a Core 2 Duo-ish system. It was really peppy. I had no problems with like I said, the UI responsiveness and stuff. I had a few hangups with I don't know if this is maybe on just my end. I had a few like when you go to update,
yep.
it hangs. I'm not sure if that's a canonical thing still, because I don't experience that on the system I'm using now, which is straight Ubuntu 16.04. So I found that a little weird, but I think it just might be on my end.
No, actually, now that you say that, that just reminds me that I also had. So once I launched in, one of the first things I always do is I go in to check for updates. There was an update. I tried to apply it. It got through, I thought, like 97% of the update. Then I received an error message. Did you get an error message?
I did not get an error message. Mine just, when you reload like the repository cache, it'll sit there and just like scan the same, like hang on like certain repositories for a long time. Then you can apply then I applied the updates and it worked fine. But it was just really weird.
Well, I got the error message, and I thought to myself, well, it looks complete. So I went ahead and I rebooted, went back in, and to refresh, looked for new updates, and there weren't any new updates. So, I thought maybe it was just a fluke. And the system, I mean, it's been running fine since then. So, and I wanted to bring this up too. I just pulled this up. We're running on kernel 4.4.0. So we're talking about a stable kernel. This is going to be a stable system. I think you're running off of Ubuntu 16.04 with a stable kernel. So I have no reason to suspect that this wouldn't be anything but a stable system if you did run it.
Yeah. I was going to say definitely. As far as like you talked about the theming and the UI elements being more than just surface or skin deep, so to speak. Kind of like some of the other like Pear or some of the other older Mac-like OSs on the Linux end of things. I appreciated the fact that they went so far as like if you launch Synaptic, did you notice the UI differences from what it normally looks like?
Yes, I did. Now that you say that, yes, I did. Yep.
I appreciate that. To me is attention to detail, because now, do I personally like the UI changes? I think there's some wasted space, and I think like I think the reload and the apply buttons are just maybe a little too big, but that's really nitpicky. But I love, excuse me, I love the fact that there's so much to this distro though. Like I don't think you can cover this in like a 10-minute video. This is
I agree, and down to not only Synaptic but down to the search bar. It was themed out. It matched everything. And you know what? You brought up the one negative, and since you said I don't want to get nitpicky, I'm not going to get too nitpicky with it. But that was the one thing that I'd made a note on, was that once you get in there, you had this kind of small text in this really big box, for search and those kinds of things. But other than that, I haven't found any bizarre flaws or anything really to speak of.
The only other, like, again, these are going to, like if we're gonna like, I don't want to say nitpick, but if we're gonna look at things that could perhaps be changed a little bit, where the power button to shut down the system is, the icons that are within that panel, there just seems something to be off with the size of that power button to me.
Yes.
And it doesn't quite symmetrically go with the rest of the panel that's on the top. It just, again, maybe that's just me and me seeing something, but that's how, because like you have this giant silver button to essentially power off the system and, you know, give you reboot options and all that stuff. Then you have like black small icons that go to your networking and all that stuff. So it's really like a weird dichotomy. So it doesn't quite fit to me.
I would agree with you 100%. I don't think that the button's kind of cool looking, and it's not a flat design. And the viewers are probably watching this video as it rolls right now, but you'll see up in the upper right-hand corner, you can't miss it. It's a fairly large, out of proportion icon compared to the rest. But I think from the looks department, it's pretty cool. You know, it's a cool looking icon. It's just like you said, they don't all match. And the other thing I wanted to point out as we kind of take a look at the list of software that was pre-installed, and there were just a few here that I'm going to call out that I've never seen pre-installed on an OS before. So not that they're good or bad, it's just that I was surprised to see these pre-installed. So I'm just going to slide down through the list. So under education, there was a Bible application called Bible Time pre-installed. That's the first time I've ever seen a Bible app pre-installed. There was a, I thought of, well, there's not as many games as I remember. There are a few games. Nothing crazy under graphics, but as you said, I thought it was a, I don't know, I guess I'll just say a unique choice to have SeaMonkey. I'm going to put it this way. There are other browsers that I much prefer to use other than SeaMonkey. I don't know about you.
Yes, unfortunately, I'm one of the evil people that prefer Chrome.
Although I heard today, and this is kind of a side note, I heard today that Firefox is getting ready to roll out some of the things they've been working on with a later version for speed and compatibility and some other things there. And it was on LAS, and they were talking about it. So I've got to go dig into that because I'm kind of jazzed now about some of the new things coming from Firefox based on what I heard today.
One of the things that I did find interesting under the sound and video, though, they did have some interesting choices for default apps in there. It's rare that I see Audacity pre-installed.
Right.
Also, I forgot to mention this. They do have different login sessions besides the current Perl desktop environment that they are using. They do have GNOME fallback. I think it's GNOME fallback, but they also made it so that you can use this as a Kodi system. So if you want to do an XBMC, like just log into XBMC or Kodi, whatever you want to call it, you can do that. Log in and hey, look, that's where you go right there. The fact that Kodi's pre-installed is also awesome.
Absolutely. So I missed that then too. Man, I've got to do a better job. I'm glad you're here as lead on this review, Matt. So another, you mentioned Perl Tweak, and I was happy to see that as well, and I thought they did a good job there. Just trying to see, and then also under sound and video, if I'm not mistaken, Kazam was pre-installed. So, if you wanted to jump in and do some screen recording right out of the gate, you could. I also thought MPV Media Player was not a bad option. That's a pretty good piece of software. And of course, they had VLC as well. And then the other thing I found interesting is they had AppGrid pre-installed as well.
AppGrid is okay. Linux purists will not like it because the UI and all that stuff is It's a proprietary system, like UI, on top of the Ubuntu repositories.
Yep.
Once you use it, it's really hard to go to a different software center. Because I used to use AppGrid back when the Ubuntu Software Center, before it changed over in 1604. So that used to be my default from like 1204 to like 1510. So one thing that I do like is they also do have the GNOME software app for those that want the GNOME software app. So you do have your open source alternative. Another thing and Synaptic is pre-installed, so if you really break something and you want to fix it from the GUI, you can. But the biggest thing that I liked was the Perl Future Software, which is kind of like the software boutique from Ubuntu Mate or Mate or whatever you want to call it. That I did very much like. Like for me, I downloaded the video editor package, so it installed OpenShot video editor and that stuff for me.
Whatever we do, we cannot mispronounce Mate. We have to get that one right, buddy.
Sorry, Ubuntu Mate. That better. So are we going to get into the whole GNU/Linux debate too? Because whatever.
We don't have time in the day for that, man.
Exactly. As long as you're using the software, it's all that matters.
So back to AppGrid. I've never had a lot of success with AppGrid. It loads up slow for me and that kind of thing. Maybe if I give it time to populate, but I'm fine. I know you've said in the past you're a Synaptic user as I am, and I'm fine with that in the Ubuntu Software Center. I just found that that's not something you typically see pre-installed. But again, all of that's fine. None of that is a deal breaker as far as the OS is concerned, because let's face it, you can go in and check it out. If you don't like it, you can uninstall it. We've got a rating system in place now, a scale of 1 to 10. So where would you put this one?
Oh man. The problem is, man, that's going to be a hard rating because they do a lot of things right. Man, I'd probably have to give it at least. It's not daily driver for me. I'd probably have to give this an 8 out of 10.
Okay. Well, you and I would be very close there. I was going to give it a 7 out of 10. So again, I think this would be one. And how do you tell someone reasons why they should try this? And that's kind of what I was struggling with. You give this to someone who's coming from Mac, who says, I want to try Linux, and so you give them a distro that looks like a Mac and hopes that they'll like it, because I think the reason that someone decides to move from a particular OS to another is not particularly look. In fact, a lot of times people are wanting something different. And so that's where I kind of struggle is, if I wanted something that looked like a Mac and operated like a Mac, would I not be using a Mac?
I get what you're saying there, but for some people, this is where things like Zorin OS and those kind of OSs come into, where they have that very Windows vibe, or like the one that what was the one you recently reviewed that looked a whole lot like Windows? Name escapes me off the top of my head. These type of distros to me are more of a comfort zone for those that are willing to try something, but there has to be an element of familiarity to it.
Yep.
And I think this strikes that kind of right balance, because there's enough that's different with like how the menus are, normally like on Mac OS, God forbid if we call it OS 10 now. Normally on Mac OS, if you go up to find, the Finder and you get the about computer software updates and all that stuff, you don't get a menu on top of it to find applications and all that stuff. You have to dig inside your. God, I hate trying to find applications within the applications folder within the way OS 10 does stuff is just weird to me. This gives you all that stuff that's present on your system front and center to the user, but it also gives them that familiarity with the dock too, which they're probably going to be more accustomed to using. This would almost be right up there to me with like elementary OS as far as putting a Mac user on it.
Yep.
To me, elementary is kind of the Linux haven for OS 10 users. Just because of the way they have a focus on design and they have a focus on how things are done. They have a singular focus, kind of how Apple used to be as opposed to how they are now. That element is kind of here, and I think that's really, again, that's where I think this distro strength really is it gives that comfort zone, but people who are willing to perhaps step a step or two outside of it, that, oh, hey, look, I'm here. Oh, wait, I'm here, that kind of thing, half and half. So I think that's probably the biggest thing I take away from this distro.
And that's a very point here with this distribution, because you've got the traditional left, all of your close, minimize, maximize on the left. So someone coming from a Mac, if that's all they've ever used, that's naturally where they're going to go. And all of that was in place, as far as I could tell, throughout the entire OS. It wasn't like GMAC where it bounced back over. If you remember, it would bounce back over. And now all of a sudden your controls are on the right.
The thing to me that makes this different than, say, something like elementary is elementary has a very specific way of doing things. Like the way you work within that system, like within Pantheon, is very designed to use in a certain way. Yeah. This, I think, accommodates, and that's kind of what I mean when I say elementary is like Mac OS in that way. Very singular focused and whatnot. This is singular focused, but this gives enough customization and tweaking and changing for those that want to change things. Because you have things like the tweak tools and all that stuff that a lot of other things don't have. And I think that, again, it's trying to give the best of both to people from both sides of the equation. And I think this is probably the best one that strikes that kind of balance, where it has a focus on how it wants to do things, but it's willing to let users kind of change and adapt the system to their use to, which is something a lot of Linux distros don't remember to do anymore.
Well said, man. Well said. Well, this is the highest rated distro we've reviewed to date. Out of 3 now, is that right? 3? And so you gave it an 8, I gave it a 7. And so, hey, if you're looking for something new and you like that Mac look, let us know what you think about it in the video notes. And Matt, what are you up to next? Have you got a video you're doing on your channel, or are you going to be sitting down with Linux Gamer or anyone like that coming up?
Not currently. If you guys want to, those that are wondering, my YouTube channel is my handle on YouTube. It's Dark1778. But generically, I do Nick's videos. I'm, like I said earlier, I'm the host on the Gaming on Linux podcast. As far as Gaming on Linux, we probably have an episode that we're recording not this week, but next week. We usually do those on Saturdays, about 5 Eastern, usually. Not particularly anything off the top of my head. We might talk about to the porter that did Dave the Tentacle for Linux. He is one of the co-hosts of the show, so he's been on the show a lot lately. So we might talk about Dave the Tentacle some more and how the response to There's a new Humble bundle out,
Oh, yeah.
so we might have a conversation about how that works as far as how his take on that may be. As far as my own stuff, I recently did a video about why I use Linux, like top 5 reasons I use Linux, and they're not the conformist, like typical 5 reasons I use Linux because it's free and blah blah. Like I get into a little more detail, and I make the caveat like these are my personal reasons. Like one of them is I believe one of my reasons was something along the lines of like. People always talk about you don't need antivirus and all this other stuff on Linux, and I call kind of BS on that, where I was like, no, there's just less stuff written for Linux,
Right.
so it's still intelligent to have it. It's why I have ClamAV and different anti-malware, but I don't have the same problems because the system is differently built than Windows or OS 10. So that's usually the type of stuff I'm doing. As far as when I do them, well, that's kind of I do them on a whim. You guys will find that most of my content is kind of like these. They're kind of one-offs where I just kind of ramble sometimes and try to place coherent thought into the process of rambling.
Well, we're going to wrap it up and hope that here the next week or so we'll find some other unknown. Not that this is completely unknown. Again, this was recommended by a Linux Quest viewer, and I'm glad that we were able to check this out. But there are lots of, I think you said there's 350 some odd distributions out there. So I think we can make it our job to find those that are forgotten or neglected, or I'm sure we can find some more.
No, we will not be looking at Rebecca Black OS or Hannah Montana. I am sorry.
Oh, come on, man. I was so wanting to review Hannah Montana OS.
No.
Well, Matt, thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it. And we'll catch up with you next week, I guess.
All right, Rob. Always appreciate it. Always a good time, bud.
All right. See you, buddy.